Yo, what up guys? Travic here. Today I want to talk about the latest build that I have been playing over the last couple of days. And this build comes mainly from you guys. If you've been keeping up very recently, you'll know that I have been wanting to do content like simulacrums, and I've been looking for something that is quite tanky, blows up the whole screen, and just kind of covers everything that I've been looking for. Originally, I started with Captain Lance's Ember Fusillade, and we moved into a different direction. Thanks to the help of Twitch chat, my Discord community, and a few other people, we eventually settled up on Arc. And if you haven't seen it before, Arc is this lightning bolt that you shoot out of your character. It hits a mob and it explodes all over your screen. But the way that it was built was very unique and interesting. It copied a lot of the survivability aspects from the Comb's Heart with the Wrath Pith tech that Captain Lance was doing, and it went in all kinds of different directions with using stuff like Veil of the Night. But what makes this variation of the build really interesting is, well, you'll have to see it inside of a map. First and foremost, let's move this stuff to the side. Let's take a map. Let's identify the map. Just kind of slam everything on it. It doesn't even matter. Let's val it for good measure because sure, why not? And let's just kind of go into a map and just take a look at how this build is performing and what it's really doing. Now we're going to look for some kind of juicy map that we can go into that has a lot of things going on so we can see what's really going on. We have Delirium, Breach, a map boss. That's Fortress. It's not like the best map. This one over here, Headlands. We've got Ritual, Deli, Breach, map boss. We have the works. Let's go into a nice big map and see. This map's going to have Shock Ground, Enfeeble, Temp Chains, Ellie Weakness, Monster Damage. Pretty much a lot of the mods that make things relatively annoying. So it should be a good showcase. First and foremost, this build relies on our ability to regen a ton of life. So when we come into a map, we get to cast a couple of spells, get our regen essentially to the moon, and we're off to the races. You'll notice something very interesting too is we have no resistances at all, and our damage is, almost 1,000,000. But let's take a look at with the camera off how our life pool looks, what a map looks like, and something very interesting. The first thing that you're going to notice is we are able to hit the entire screen without much issue or struggle. And when we get to mobs, they have a nice, beautiful shatter effect as our lightning damage is doing a whole lot of cold damage. You'll see that we're coming right up to the abyss here, and it is not a problem at all. We can just sit here and cast to our heart's content, and we have become an absolute monster of a build, pressing one button to clear all of the content. Now, this will not have the movement speed that the Whirling Slash build that we played in the past has, but there is a world that we can kick the movement speed up with different takes, such as cast on crit by changing the body armor. We can craft 60% movement boots. We can adjust the passive tree or the skill tree to give us more movement speed, and there's a lot of different options. But today we're going to talk about the first iteration of what this build looks like, what you can expect out of it, where it's going, what my plans are, and overall how you too can start playing it. You see right away, there's just nothing going on. You see a pack of mobs, you cast your arc, the arc scales all the way multiple screens over. You can see that there's just bodies falling, icicles everywhere, and this is just exactly what I mean. I can't speak for everybody, but this is 100% what I want. I can even come into things like Ritual and just kind of stand here, hold down right click and not have a care in the world, find more mobs, hit them all, blow them all up, open an essence, shoot the essence, blow up the essence, come on over here, cast arc one time, literally one time, have it completely clear the screen. And this is it. This is the build. Now, I know you're going to be asking me, how does it boss? Does it handle bosses well? Can we see what a boss looks like? As soon as we finish this map, we'll hop on over into a boss. We'll take a look at our tier 3 Zesh and what exactly is going on. And you can see just one arc just all the way across the screen, blowing up everything, blowing up with nice, beautiful shatters. Nothing to even begin to worry about. And even when we get into something like a retrain out, we're able to just hold down right click and clear multiple of the screens. We have amazing screen wide AoE. We have nothing really to worry about. We can open up the essence. We die, and sometimes you just get got. But that is essentially how it works. Yes, I know somebody's like, oh my God, you got, but I have no idea what the hell killed me in true Path of Exile fashion. But we did indeed die, so I mean, something did get us. Now, I could record the whole footage again, but that would be dishonest. So let's keep on moving along. Let's come on over here. Let's showcase and search up splinters. And I guess, you know, do I want to do Zesh? Zesh is probably fine. Let's come over here. Let's buy one attempt at Zesh. Pull out the splinters. Come on over here. Click this. Go to the realm gate. Put in Zesh 3. Double check this. See if we got anything good there. It's actually tier 1 spell damage, which is pretty nice. Move these to the side so we don't have to worry. And let's go take a look at how Zesh looks. Now, the big thing and the big takeaway from this build is there's a couple of things. First and foremost, you are not as fully immortal as I would like it to be. There are ways to make it more immortal, scale more health, scale more regen, get a, you know, slightly better defense, slightly more optimized gear, and that's something for in the future. Other things to be is to just, you know, play a little bit not as completely crazy. You know, you don't need to be running face first into every single mob ever and start sprinting your way into oblivion and hoping that you don't just immediately die because, well, you'll just accidentally get killed. You do have a nice amount of health in this build. You can get knocked down, you can get beat on a little bit, and you can just essentially, you know, without the complete absolute wombo combo of things, still be okay as you have a lot of regen. Now let's see if we can like run face first into a whole lot of mobs. We'll kick our regen up and see if one of these guys will knock us down. And you can see we can just stand here and take a little bit of a beating. We're not fully immortal, but we can be relatively immortal. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's just get over to the boss now and take a look at what our overall boss damage looks like. And then we can go into the build and a little bit of the showcase and kind of essentially tell you guys what's going on. Now, I don't want to sell you on the ultimate be all end all, but it is an extremely strong, durable build that can do a lot of content. I have managed to do all of the content currently available in Path of Exile 2. I've done 6 modded maps. I've done 6 modded, you know, Abyss maps. I've cleared all the bosses with this, and overall it's been a lot of fun. This build can start on the cheap. I have plenty of friends that in the community that have started on the cheap, and it can ramp up in price pretty heavily, and you know, it can get there. Eventually I'd like to add things to it like Headhunter, get a different belt, you know, maybe upgrade my rings, get 2 socket or 3 socket gloves, 3 socket boots, sanctify the rest of my gear, and kind of go from there. Now you see we have just like a bajillion layers of loot. We'll just grab the breach rings, we'll leave everything else. And if we miss something good, well, we missed something good. But let's just grab these. We need this, that. We don't care about this. We'll take the amulet. We'll grab this and we'll move on. So let's come on over here to Zesh and see what's going on. First and foremost, we are using Sion's Temper, so we're going to take this out to put in HEFT so that we can do some boss damage. We're going to kick up our regen, make sure that we have nice regen so that we don't accidentally get deleted by the boss. We want to make sure that we don't get completely deleted. We're going to come on over to the boss. He's going to start talking. We're going to pop down our 2 Orb of Storms. They're going to give us, I forget, resonance so that we can have cool resonance. We're going to put down our little thing here. And then as soon as he becomes available, we're just going to hit him. And then he's frozen and dead. And that's the entirety of the fight. He just kind of dies. Granted, it's not an absolute one-shot mechanic, but it is still relatively safe. He's completely slowed to oblivion. We didn't even have to cast our curse, which we could have cast. And, you know, that's just essentially what we have going on for us right now. All this loot we'll take a look at later. Not a big deal. But what's going on, and pretty much, you know, I'm going to say what's going on again, but how does the build work? How does it function? Let's start from the basics in the beginning. First and foremost, you're a life-based blood mage build that is stacking strength everywhere that we can. We have very little energy shield, pretty much exactly 0. We're not really utilizing it. We have no armor, no evasion, no block, and you have saw me die, so we're not fully immortal, but we are relatively tanky as much as you don't want to believe that. We have 0 resistances from our helm. We are capped chaos resistance. We have a nice amount of life regeneration that as we go and we cast our spells, we can scale higher and higher thanks to the character that we're playing. We have access to spell leech and all kinds of other fun mechanics being Blood Mage. Now, our gear is the reason that we're able to do a lot of this, and we'll look at spells in a minute. First and foremost, our gear, we have Veil of the Night. This is that you have no elemental resistances. This means that you cannot be, you know, LE Pen, you can't be LE Weakness, you don't have to build elemental resistances on gear, and you can see that every so often elemental damage, while it will hurt, will probably maybe kill you, but it's not that big of a deal or a factor. We managed to pick up a 2-socket Veil of the Night. They're not too crazy expensive at the time of recording. They're about 2 divines, and we stick life, maximum life runes in because we are a life stacking build. Now, because we're a life stacking build, the best armor that we can get is a Calm's Heart. Now, I got very lucky. I self-corrupted mine. I hit 1830 life. You do not need 1830 life. You would like 2 sockets. This armor will run you about 3 divines, and you can get a whole whopping 1500 flat health. Because we have no spirit, we don't need to worry about spirit gems, and well, we really don't need it with this build in the current iteration of it. If we do change the build around, we will look into cast on crit and other really cool fun stuff. But to start, for the first video and first iteration, we are playing no spirit. We are just stacking as much life as possible. We have increased life runes in our body armor. Because we're doing this and we're stacking life, we can grab Wrath Pith Globe. This one will be a little expensive. Wrath Pith, with 1 socket and max life rolls about 11 divs. If I lower the life roll, you're still looking at about 9-10 divs. Ideally, you get it with 2 sockets. It's a little bit more expensive. We use this Sacred Focus because non-channeling spells cost an additional 6% of your life, and you get 5% increased critical chance per 100 life and more spell damage per 100 max life. Essentially, this is giving us a bajillion damage and just giving us bajillions and bajillions of damage. So it's just like, it's an absolute monster of an item. You can see that our arc right now is 905. If I take this off, our arc pretty much drops down to 0. So all of our damage is inside of our Wrath Pith. Because we're stacking so much life, and because we have no resistances, and because we have just health as a defensive layer, we need to add more defenses. And we add in Defiance of Destiny, which is going to recover 24% of our missing life being hit, or before being hit by an enemy. Essentially, if we're going to get hit, Defiance of Destiny is going to kick in. It's going to say, whoa, wait a minute. And it's going to recover 24% of our missing life, as the game understands that we're going to get slapped. Now, if you're going to buy a Defiance of Destiny, I do recommend buying a 20% roll and then either qualling it yourself, or you can spend the extra bit of currency and buy the 24% roll. These are about 6 divs for a half decent roll on one. Ideally, you get it with more max life, so you're looking at 7, 8, 9 divs for a nice roll. We put Blood Transfusion under Defiance of Destiny, as this gives us 25% more life regeneration rate, because everything we do is based around life regeneration. Moving along, we do have a Calandra's Touch ring, simply due to the fact that the ring that I have here was really good. We need no resistances at all due to our helmet, so we're able to do really fun stuff with our rings. Cast speed, being a caster build, is absolutely insane, and this ring is relatively easy to kind of craft if you choose to go down that route. It's, it's kind of like up to you. What I personally did was I bought the ring with the suffixes, and then I used essences, or I used catalyst plus omens to slam on max life. So it's relatively easy to make the ring if you buy the ring with suffixes. If you were to buy the ring completely done with just, say, 100 health, chaos resistance, cast speed, and rarity, it gets to be like 10 to 15 divs. You can buy the rings. They do exist. They are out there. They can get pretty pricey. I did just happen to make a really nice ring, and I slammed on a Calandra's Dust instead of trying to craft or make another ring. Our gloves, we have rarity, chaos resistance, and increased effect of socketed gems. Inside of our gems, we have max life gems, or max life runes. The gloves are very easy to make. They're ridiculously easy. I bought a pair of gloves that had chaos resistance, a blue pair of gloves that were 2 sockets with chaos resistance. I used an essence to add rarity. I used another essence to add a increased effect of sockets. I then desecrated for a life mod, and then I homogenized Exalt Slams for a life mod. If you need help with crafting the gloves, leave a comment down below. I'll absolutely write out the steps if you need them. Or if you want, I can create a video and show you guys how to create the gloves. Just let me know what you'd like, and I'd be more than happy to accommodate. Our boots are relatively done the exact same way. I bought boots with a life regeneration roll on them. I slammed on an essence for rarity. I slammed on an essence for increased effect of socketed items. I slammed on an essence for movement speed. And then because life regen has a life tag, homogeneous Exalt Slam gives you life. And I slammed with a perfect Exalt, and I managed to hit tier 2 life, which I was overall pretty happy with. Now let's recap. We need no resistances. We are stacking life. We only want chaos resistance, and just with the current gear that we have and that we've gone over with, without our belt on, we are about to be chaos capped. If I divine my ring to 26% or 27%, I'll be chaos capped. So our belt is pretty much free range to do with whatever we want. Ideally for our belt, we would like max life, strength, and then whatever other mods that pretty much your heart contents, and we'll only need a belt with max life and strength. Ideally, the belt is Headhunter. There's probably not going to be a better solution than Headhunter. The problem is Headhunter's about 60 divs just for that belt, and in current states, I can't afford it as it's a little bit out of budget. I got very lucky with my own corrupts on my body armor. I got very lucky with crafting the boots and the gloves for about 5 to 7 divs each. And the belt, I just kind of bought anything that I could find on the market with, you know, just life and strength that was relatively on the cheaper side. These belts are ridiculously cheap. You can get them for literally next to nothing. They're pretty much free. The big expensive thing is going to be the wand. I did make a +5 wand. This was really easy to craft. I used the Captain Lance wand video, which I'll be including for you guys in the description down below. Lance does a great job of walking you through how to make the wand, and I followed pretty much his step-by-step guide into crafting the wand, and it was really easy and super cheap to do. Ideally, eventually, I'm going to remake the wand for multiple sockets, and I'm going to slam in +1 level of socketed gems into my wand and make it really, really strong. But for now, I clear all the content. I don't really know if I want to upgrade any of the gear besides Headhunter, so I'm probably saving until Headhunter. Moving on over to our skills, we don't really have a whole lot of skills. Because we're Blood Mage, we get life remnants, and life remnants are these little vials of life that drop when you hit a mob. We could scale our life pretty much to like 10, 11,000. It's really nice. It's really cool. We use harmonic remnants to have more additional remnants be created so that while we're mapping, we have a nice steady flow of life. We have remnant potency so that we get more effects of them, and they, you know, they're respawn more often. Our wand base doesn't really matter, so mana drain doesn't really do anything. And in our offhand, we have a sigil of power with plus level of spell gems so that we can scale our sigil of power really high. Essentially, we just like have sigil of power so that we can just get a whole bunch of extra damage. You see, if I stand in the sigil, I gain a whole bunch of extra damage. The plus the spell levels doesn't even really matter. You just really care about sigil of power. It's the only thing we really care about, as it's our second weapon slot. And there we have second wind so that we can cast it twice. Cooldown recovery so that it comes off of cooldown quicker. Prolonged duration so that it lasts longer. Prolonged duration 2. And magnified area 2 so that we have a nice big area that we can walk around in and be in. And you see, if we step out, we lose about 100,000 damage. Step in, about 100,000 damage. Our main bread and butter damaging skill that we're using right now is Arc. Arc, like I had mentioned, is this straight lightning bolt that we're firing. It costs a whole lot of life to use, and it's, you know, it's pretty costly to run. We are indeed crit capped in this build, and we do have a bajillion crit multi, and you can see that our damage is very, 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 very high. And we do a total of a bajillion cold damage and a little bit of lightning damage. And we get about 2 casts a second right now. Essentially what happens is while playing Arc, we are going to scale our Arc damage with Atuali's Bloodletting. You see where it's 779 right now. If I take this out, we go to 149. This gem is absurd. You gain 2% of damage as extra physical damage per 10 life cost. So since the skill's mana is converted to life and it costs life to cast, the more life that we spend to cast it, the more, you know, like damage multiplier that we get, right? So right now our Arc costs 3,412 life. So that's a pretty big damage multiplier. The more multipliers that we put on Arc, the more damage that we're going to do. Because we gain damage as extra, very specific wording, gain damage as extra, and it is physical damage, it's not really able to be supported by like things like Rockiatas or other cool elemental stuff because it's fizz damage, right? Like you could scale fizz, but who wants to scale fizz? Fizz isn't fun to scale. So because we gain damage as extra, we're able to use a really cool support that's called Embitter. Embitter says if a support would gain damage as extra, which Atuali's does, all of that extra is then converted to cold. So while I was in a map and I was doing things in a map and all those mobs were blowing up into icicles, that's because of Embitter support changing all of that extra fizz to cold. So now we are a lightning cold build utilizing things like shock and freeze. Because we are now a cold build, we get to use Rockiata's flow to essentially invert all of the resistances of the enemy, and anything that has cold resistance now has like completely negative cold resistance and eats a whole lot of damage to the face. Outside of that, because we are a fully life-based attacking build, we can use Zenith because we have all this mana to gain 25% or 30% more damage if we're above 90% mana, since we're always above 90% mana. And the Sion's Temper is what allows us to, as we're firing, to occasionally have our arc fire in a circle. Now you'll notice right away it takes a little bit of time for our arc to get to the stage where we're able to cast it all the time, as every time we cast, our regen goes higher and higher, and this is intentional. So when you first go into a map, you're going to have no regen. As soon as you step into a map like you saw earlier, you're going to cast once or twice, your regen will start to kick up, and as long as there's no less regen on the map or mobs that are hindering your regen, you'll start building up regen and building up regen and building up regen and building up regen. And something that's really cool is, because we have so much regen that we're using with all of our skills, that we could just like chain cast infinitely, and that's where Sion's Temper comes into play. Sion's Temper allows us to have the ability to just shoot all over the screen. While not good for bossing, is really good for clear, and you can just take this off, and you saw me do it in the Zesh fight where I swap out Sion's Temper for HEFT for more damage. Now, I had mentioned the regen and the regen on the skill and the skill costing life and regenning all of our life back, and that kind of goes hand in hand with Blood of the Warrior as another really cool defensive layer, which I need to remember to press my flask more often. You want this flask, by the way. It's 30% of damage taken effect is recouped his life. I probably wouldn't have died in the map if I remembered to press my flask. I'm so used to Path of Exile 1 with flask being automated, I forget to press the flask all the time. You got to press the flask. The flask will, you know, not shut off while, you know, you're regenning life, so you'll always have, as long as you remember to press your flask, another 30%. You can see the flask is still on and still running. Now we do have Orb of Storms. Orb of Storms is going to be on our weapon set 2. We want it on weapon set 2 because we don't want Orb of Storms to last very long. We want it to shut off relatively quick, as it leaves behind these little ember thingies. And when I pick one of these up, you can see that my arc scales to about 2 million. So let's see that again. We cast this. Orb of Storms lasts about 2.5 seconds, 779. I pick up this. Now we're at 2 million arc damage. Orb of Storms is going to have Harmonic Remnants, just so that we get more of these little remnants. We're going to have Remnant Potency so that we get more effect of our remnants. We're going to have Overabundance so that we can cast 2 Orb of Storms, and then we can leave 2 of these infusions behind. Let's cast our infusions, cast Orb of Storms, and you'll see that these 2 will leave infusions behind, or they should leave infusions behind. There's the 2 infusions. We can pick up the infusions, and we can have them to deal a whole lot of damage. We have compressed duration because we don't want Orb of Storms to last very long at all. Currently, right now, it lasts a rough 2.4 seconds, and we, you know, or it casts in 2.4 seconds, I'm sorry. Where is the duration? The orb's duration is 1.88 seconds. This puts it to 2.8 seconds. This adds another couple of seconds. We want to really reduce the duration to as close to 0, and it's really hard because Orb of Storms seems to want to last for literally ever. It's like a 12-second duration, so we want to literally remove it to 0. So recapping, Orb of Storms says Harmonic Remnants to generate us infusions, Remnant Potency to make better infusions, Overabundance so that we can get multiples of infusions, Compressed Duration to reduce the duration of Orb of Storms, and we have Swift Affliction to lessen the timer on it. You can actually swap out Swift Affliction for Life Tap if mana becomes this weird issue, which it should never. We have Enfeeble. I don't know, dude. We have Enfeeble. Enfeeble just makes the target deal less damage. I never need to cast it. We're a 1-button build. I don't want to press it, but it's there in case I ever want to press it. We have it with efficiency support, so they cost less, so that we can cast it and not have to worry. We have Heightened Curse for more magnitude of curses, prolonged duration so that it lasts longer, Ritualistic Curse so that we get, you know, just more area of effect, and it just kind of like eventually goes off and erupts on all the enemies, and Focus Curse so that the skills erupt and happen faster. We want our curse, if we're going to cast it on things like bosses, to go off very, very, very quickly. There are probably better options for curses. I will still kind of look around and see what we find. And lastly, we have Spark. You don't really ever cast Spark. You can cast Spark. I should probably put Life Tap in one of the spots here on Spark, but Spark is one of those things where, like, if you don't want to play Arc, you put on Spark and it does the exact same thing. You just swap the supports into Spark and boom, bada bang, you deal 1 billion Spark damage. Some people want to play Spark. I want to play Arc, but you have the option to play Spark. Just do the swapping of the skill gems and have a good time. Now, moving on over, we are indeed a Blood Mage, and we're a Blood Mage for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, we get life remnants that scale our life to the moon. You will pick them up. They'll be in the map. They're little red dots. You can't miss them. They're huge. We're also going to be taking Grasping Wounds that says 25% of life loss from hits is prevented. That much is lost over 4 seconds. So unless you get absolutely one-tapped, Grasping Wounds, your Flask, Defiance of Destiny, all of your life regen will keep you alive. In theory. I did die in this video, but in theory, it keeps you alive. Outside of that, you also have Vitality Siphon that says 10% of spell damage is leeches life. We deal 2 billion damage. We gain 2 billion life. It's not really 2 billion, but you know what I mean? You gain a whole lot of life from, you know, just Vitality Siphon. Outside of that, Blood Mage allows us to have base crit on spells as 15%. That is absolutely positively bonkers, and it makes us able to hit that 100% crit chance very, very, very easily. And it's one of the only ascendancies that makes spells just pretty much absurd. Can't really beat it. And on top of that, we get increased critical damage bonus per 50 life. We have 7,900 life. You could do the math. That is a lot of crit bonus, like a whole lot of crit bonus. As far as our tree goes, I think the tree can be optimized a little bit more. This is iteration in version 1, and we will work on the tree and optimize it a little bit more. We're going to come up through these spell damage nodes here. Raw Destruction for int and spell damage. Practice Sign for cast speed. Critical Overload for critical strike chance. Move on over to Sudden Escalation for critical spells. Jewel Socket, which will eventually be a Grand Spectrum when I can afford them. Right now we have Recover Life on kill. Cast speed, energy shield doesn't matter. We want Recover Life, cast speed, elemental damage, crit bonus. Any of those are really nice. Ideally though, you do not remove the max life on kill. Moving on over this way, we are going to have Overzealous for cast speed and increased mana cost of skills. Since we're not casting with mana, nobody really cares, but we like cast speed. Cast speed is really good. Over here to Storm Charge to help us get that crit cap and 40% more elemental damage. Down over here for 30% more elemental damage, because why not? It's right there. And we get more cast speed with elemental skills. Moving over here, we have Arcane Surge. Normally Arcane Surge works with having, you know, more mana and cast speed, but because we take Sanguimatic Rituals, which can also be anointed, we regenerate 1% of maximum life per second with Arcane Surge instead of mana. Moving down this way, we have Sacrificial Blood for 15% increased life cost of skills, which helps scales our Atualis. We also have Blood Transfusion, which is anointed on our amulet. Then we come down over here to Desensitization for 25% crit bonus. And then we have a From Nothing Diamond in the Jewel Socket down here. This From Nothing Diamond, I'm still debating if I want to keep it or not. We take the Bulwark Notable, which is all the way down here, which is really nice. And we get Hail Heart, which is 15% life recovery rate, and all these small life recovery rate wheel here to just give us more survivability inside of our maps. Moving on over, we are going to talk about the absolute bread and butter of this build. We have an Undying Hate Jewel here, which is the Timeless Jewel from Path of Exile 1. If you don't know what these are jewels that are dropped from the Abyss boss, which is called Kulamak, and they can roll a whole bunch of different gods. There's Anumamu, Ulaman, some other guy whose name I can't remember, some other guy's name, and then there's Tekrod. T-E-C-R-O-D. This is the one that we care about. You really care about Tekrod, and you don't care about anything else in this jewel. I'll go over the other stuff in a minute. You only care that it says Souls in Tribute to Tekrod. That means this jewel is divinable. So if you were to drop one and you wanted the Tekrod one, you can keep divining the jewel until it gets Tekrod. The reason we want Tekrod is it changes these notables. So if I take this out here, you're going to see this is Chaos Inoculation. It changes this notable to Sacrifice of Blood. That says regenerate 1 life per second per 8 life spent in the past 8 seconds, 50% more life cost of skills. That means every life that I spend to cast a skill, such as Arc, which is 3,400 life, I gain back 1 life per second per 8 life. So you gain a bajillion life recovery, which is scalable with all of the nodes, such as all of these down here from Hail Heart Life Regeneration and Sacrificial Blood and anything that scales regen works with this. And that's what gives us the ability to sit there and cast. And you'll notice that the more we spend, the more regen we get, and the more regen we get, and the faster we cast, the more we recover. And eventually we just start recovering way more than we can spend, and we just scale it and scale it and scale it and scale it and scale it. And the faster you cast, the more regen that you get. Careful Assassination for crit damage and crit bonus. Thin Ice, because we are now a cold build, so why not? Also, by the way, if you can't afford Rakiatas, Heavy Frost does Rakiata. So if you can't afford Rakiata, just click Heavy Frost. Heavy Frost is insane. Just click it if you don't have Rakiata. Save yourself like 30 divs. Click Heavy Frost. Coming down over here, True Strike for crit chance, for the Jugular for crit bonus, up there for damage on crit, down here to Deadly Force. Moving on over to Throat Seeker for more critical bonus, down here to Chakra of Life for regeneration, Heartbreaker for more crit bonus, Moving on, you get a jewel socket, a bunch of life and int nodes, another jewel socket with recover life on kill, and then we take cooked for more crit bonus. Now, in a world, you probably should take critical strike chance here and Heartstopper. I am very fortunate. I have a Megalomaniac Diamond that gives me Heartstopper and Sanguimatic Rituals. If you don't find something like this, which you probably won't, you'll probably need a few levels. You'll probably want to change pathing here in the beginning. You'll probably want to path this way to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll probably want to cut out these cute little nodes in the middle here, and you're going to want to path your way to Heartstopper, and you're probably going to want to path your way to Blood Transfusion and anoint Sanguimatic Rituals. You ideally would anoint it, because then you don't have to spend all these points. Or, I mean, if you want, you can just like spend these points and get increased effect of Arcane Surge, which actually is not that bad. Like there's really a world where I get a couple of levels and I spec into this and I change this Megalomaniac to something else. It's a real possibility. But overall, that's the build. That's everything. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. If something's confusing or you don't understand it, just reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. I know this video ran a little bit longer, but I wanted to make sure I covered a lot of the bases to make sure you guys knew what the heck was going on. But if you're confused, you want to learn how to craft something, you have questions about the build, you have ideas that could make or improve it, please let me know. I'm more than happy to listen to you guys and hear you guys out. Feel free to stop by my live stream or my Discord, both places that you can kind of reach me and see what's going on. But for now, friends, I'm going to leave this video to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.